Welcome to episode 2 of After Hours, the Pelegi podcast. We're back.
All right, we are back. Episode two. John, kick us off with the introduction here.
So today we'll be talking about starting a business, expectations versus reality. Before we get into that, quick background on Sam and I and Labor Tech Solutions. We started a digital marketing company 3 years ago. We side hustled it for the first year and a half and have been building it since, based out of Kansas City and Chicago. We are primarily serving small businesses, contractors, any business that needs help on the digital marketing front.
hmm and yeah, just kind of from the viewer's point of view of this episode, kind of what you're going to expect to get out of it is, we talked a little bit about last episode, what it took to quit the 9 to 5 to go full time. Here, it's kind of the point of view of setting reality versus expectations in the beginning of actually taking the launch full time into the business. So, just from our point of view, how we thought it was going to go versus what actually happened and how we navigated that, and kind of what you can expect if you do the same. So, buckle up. This will be an awesome episode. Yeah, let's roll.
Dive right in. Expectation number one, freedom and time control. So when you initially start out, you have the expectation of, hey, working for myself, I have a flexible schedule, I have no boss, I essentially have all the freedom in the world. That is true in a sense. You are working for yourself. You don't have to clock in and clock out. You could work whenever you want. You could take a nap in the middle of the day if you wanted to. You don't have a boss in the corner office sitting right next to you, looking over your shoulder, looking at your computer. So you do have that sense of freedom. But you are always on. There's always people that are clients that are asking for certain things. You have to build the business, you have to pay the bills. There are things that pile up, and you have to have discipline at the end of the day to be able to wake up every morning and know that what you kill is what you eat. It's
hmm
essentially what it comes down to.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of let off with that better. I think the expectation in the beginning when you are starting a business is, oh, I just bought back all this time. I quit my 9 to 5. I no longer have to answer to a manager. Don't have to take direct orders from anyone. I mean, and from our point of view, I mean, yeah, that is true. Like you are your own boss. You do set your own hours. But at the end of the day, you have clients that you're going to be dealing with on a weekly basis where, they text you at 9 o'clock at night. You want to respond as fast as you can. And the reality of it, like John said, you eat what you kill. So, I mean, yeah, if you want to quote unquote half ass it, that's how the business is going to grow. It's going to grow very slow and it's going to, take time. But at the other end of the spectrum is, you can be working 80-hour weeks, working on weekends, being ready. Let's say you're out with your friends on like a Saturday afternoon or something. Like you want to be responsive enough to answer your clients when they do reach out to you, whether that's the weekends, whether that's an issue comes up. You do want to kind of be on all the time. You want to have that switch kind of flipped to nonstop entrepreneur. You do give up a few things, but what you gain at the end of the day is, you're working towards a dream of complete freedom, where whether that's you want to sell the business one day, or maybe you want to bring someone in to run the business and you kind of just oversee all of the operations. It depends on what your point of view or outlook of that is. But I think in the beginning, you know, you do eat what you kill. You work as many hours as you want to work, but the more you work, the more money you make. I would say, John, did you underestimate the time commitment in the beginning? I know for a fact, like I kind of did when we started off, like where it was the first weekend, it was like, okay, we're full time. Like, can you still go out with friends every weekend? What does that work-life balance look like? Want to hear your insights on that.
Yeah, it's definitely a perspective shift of all right, I'm working these 40, 45 hours a week. That's it. And when I close my laptop, I don't have to log back in until 8 or 9 o'clock on a Monday morning. As Sam mentioned, if someone, one of our clients texts us over the weekend or at night, you have to reply. That's just what it comes down to. If you're out at dinner, when you get back from dinner, make sure you're replying. You're sitting down at your computer until 10 o'clock. Um, I think I did have an understanding that that was going to be the case.
Hmm.
Just the amount of times that that has come up is more than I expected. So it just comes down to having that understanding of, all right, like I'm always going to have my phone on me. I'm always going to be checking email. Um, and as we grow into it, I think it is nice to have some level of separation where and
Hmm.
understanding that, all right, if I don't reply for 4 hours, that's okay. If
Hmm.
it's a Sunday morning and I don't get back until Sunday night or Monday morning, it's going to be okay. We have a strong enough relationship with our clients and our team members that it's okay. You don't have to
Yeah.
reply in 2 seconds. So I think um, in the beginning for me, one thing was, oh, we have to get on this immediately. We have to do this right now. But now, I'm like, all right, I'm going to set this time to do this. In the afternoon, I'm going to deal with client stuff. At night, I'm going to do deep research or whatever that looks like. So blocking up the day that way, um, I've had that shift more recently, just in the past month or two, of really blocking up my day, not looking at my text for a little bit of time so I can sit down and actually do work, not
Hmm.
looking at my email for a little bit of time so I can sit down and do work or read or whatever it is. So I think it's just having the systems and the mindset in place to allow yourself um, to to be successful and have that time control and freedom within your day.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. Like, I don't think it should cause a relationship like shift almost with any, friends or family, people that are in your life. You shouldn't let it completely take over your life because that is one very isolating, two, that cannot be great for your mental health. So, in my opinion, what it comes down to, kind of what you just said, is, how do you time block your day? Like, don't push off tasks. Like, oh, maybe I can just do this tomorrow, stack that task on tomorrow. Do stuff when it comes up. Get it out of the way right now so you can free up your week later. Because one, it does take a ton of work. But at the end of the day, like you want to have a work life balance. You can't just kind of dump all this pressure on yourself in the beginning and expect great results. Like you want to have some sort of a balance there. And that comes down to time management. I think if a task comes up, no matter how big or small, if it's urgent, do it right away, whether that's 8 o'clock at night or in some cases, a client task will come up at 7 in the morning. It's get on it, do it right away, try to free up your day as much as you can. And I think if you could take away one thing from starting the business up in the beginning, it's that the idea, and we're not even there yet, it's that freedom comes later down the line, not in the beginning. You work to the point where you can achieve that freedom, achieve like, oh, I want to go take a vacation for a week on this random, I don't know, Saturday through Tuesday. Who knows? You want to get to the point where you can have that freedom, but you do have to put it in the work in the beginning, in my opinion.
Well said.
Hmm.
Expectation number two, starting a business and going full time, fast money. You think that everything's going to close quickly. You're going to scale from 5K a month, 10K a month, 20, 50, 100 pretty quick. We had that, especially as you start to get a couple clients and you have maybe your first big deal comes in the door and you get really excited. But in reality, the sales cycle, depending on if you're talking to a really small business or a larger franchise, it takes time and having patience. I think a lot of it does come down to just having that patience of, all right, it's going to work out. Um, what's the saying where impatient with your inputs, impatient with the outputs. So doing everything that you possibly can on a day-to-day basis and trusting in the process and having patience that it's and knowing that it's going to work out. That was a big learning curve and still is for me to sit back and be like, all right, we're doing everything we can in the moment. Um, that fast money is not a thing.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I love that quote you said there. Impatient with your inputs, patient with the outputs. Like you just have to have self-belief that one, the business is going to grow to the point that you want it to one day. You just have to keep putting in the work consistently on a day-to-day basis and honestly be relentless. Like come in every morning with an attitude that you're going to absolutely crush the day. I think that is number one, the biggest mentality that you can have because it's not going to be overnight success where you know 1 month you're making $5,000 a month and the next you're making 150 grand MRR. Like that's not the case in a majority of businesses where you do have to be patient and set expectations. Let's say a deal doesn't fall your way, don't get down on yourself. I think that's where it can really crush people in the beginning, or like maybe your first client churns or a deal doesn't go your way. You can't let it bog you down. You got to stay mentally, you have to have mental fortitude, bend, don't break, in my opinion, and keep persevering further. Like there's no other way
Yep.
to it.
Yeah. One thing
Hmm.
that was an expectation that I think we both had is thinking that revenue equals profit of, hey,
Hmm.
we just made 10K this month. Split it two ways. It's 5K each. That's great. But in reality, having a digital marketing company and a software company, there's not that much overhead, not that many expenses, but it still is there. So understanding, hey, we do have to reinvest most of this back into the business if we want it to grow at a steady rate. Yes,
Hmm.
we're taking money out to pay the bills and pay for food and go out a little bit, but you have to reinvest and understand that revenue does not equal profit. You have to reinvest the business for it to grow, and you have to be smart about that. Um, Obviously, that's huge and will continue to be something that we focus on. Um, Bootstrapping, especially. Bootstrapping the business, you margins are a lot thinner. So understanding that we do have to reinvest back and revenue does not.
I agree with that 100%. And when you're talking about reinvesting, just for the audience, it's more like in our case, it's reinvesting in employees that can buy back your time. So a good example of that with us was, we hated getting bogged down building websites or running the SEO and blogs for our clients in the beginning. That just wasn't where our time should have been. So we reinvested and we got employees that could fill that role. And then, you reinvest in different software that, sharpens the blade as far as capabilities go. So you're that much better. You have that much of a competitive edge against your competitors that you're honestly going to battle with every day in the market to try to, bring in new clients, everything along the lines of that. And then there's just the random stuff that kind of occur. Like another huge thing, in my opinion, is, you got to have enough in the bank for taxes at the end of the year. I think that's a big suck for a lot of businesses and how you kind of structure that. So just being, I guess, flexible with, having an understanding that, okay, you do need to pay the bills in the beginning. Like you obviously have to pay your rent, groceries, maybe a little bit of money to go out and hang out with your friends on the weekends. But the end goal is to, have a little bit of juice in the account at the end of the day for, let's say something does go wrong, you can pay that or pay an employee. I think you have to, especially in our point of view, like in from our reality, the way it's gone the past, starting up for the first year and a half, I think it was, living below your means for a little while and saving up to reinvest into the business. So, um, I think that's a good mentality and outlook to have on that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. One more point on this, I think there's a lot of information and videos out there on social media that make starting a business or having a side hustle look really easy. That is not the case. You'll see videos of people starting a business and yes, there's some, strays out there that do make it big pretty quick, but for 99% of people that are starting businesses, it takes time. You have to sit back and become educated on the business that you're in, find clients, go through the sales process, build up the systems that you are going to operate on in your business, and understand that it's going to take years to get where you want to go. Um, so it's tough, even when we were part time, looking at social media and seeing all these videos, I'm like, man, they're making it look so easy, but they're just showing the highlight reel as social media is. So just understanding that and knowing that it does take time to build up a business that is sustainable, profitable.
100%. And I think that's a perfect kind of segue into our expectation number three when starting a business, that growth is linear, when in reality, it's pretty volatile. So I think a lot of people's mindset when you go into this is that, month over month, we obviously want to be growing 15%, 20% every month. You want to have that steady growth. The more momentum you build, the faster that you can scale the business. From our point of view, the reality is it definitely ebbs and flows in the beginning. There's high highs, low lows, maybe a little bit of client churn in the beginning while you're trying to figure out all your systems and processes. But yeah, I think the expectation should be that there is going to be months where you absolutely crush it, but then you're going to have a down month. And how do you not let that affect your mental is huge.
Yeah, that's a good point. Comes back to staying consistent and
Hmm.
and knowing that if you are staying consistent in the work that you're doing, the amount of clients you're talking to, the amount of sales calls that you're taking, the amount of coffees that you're going to, the amount of networking events that you're going to is staying the same month over month, if not increasing. So if I'm doing five of each of those this month, I want to strive to do six of those next month, and then
Hmm.
the next month, seven of those. So as I was going back to what I was saying previous of being impatient with the inputs, if you are impatient with the inputs and doing all those things and you have the confidence in yourself and your business, you're building that momentum and you're climbing up the mountain. Um, you have to do it. There's going to be those high highs. There's going to be the low lows. That's just how it goes owning a
Hmm.
business. Things are going to break, just the nature of it. But just having the mindset um, of consistency and just going into it. And it is nice having a partner in this, Sam. I know we talk about this all the time, but when you are experiencing those low lows and things aren't going as planned, it's nice to have someone to turn to and talk through things and know that you're
Yeah.
not in it alone.
100. I think that's a huge help, especially when you're starting up. I mean, from our point of view, like when we were starting this up, it felt like you'd take two steps forward, and then something would go wrong, and you take three steps back. And how do you refine that process? How do you get better and better on a consistent basis and build that momentum to the point where you can kind of hockey stick almost, really upward trajectory. So it's about how do you deal with the punches in the beginning? How do you vent that stress that you're going to go to? Ultimately, I definitely felt this. You feel pressure from clients when you're starting off. Like, how do you handle that pressure? How do you release that almost? And it comes down to, in our case, great partner here. We can talk to everything. We can talk about everything with each other. It's fantastic, especially when blowing off steam, something's not going right. Like, how do you vent that stress, and how do you overcome that? You get knocked down, you got to get back up again. You take two steps forward. Sometimes it feels like three steps back, but you keep going at it, impatient with your inputs, patient with your outputs. You're going to take two steps forward, get knocked three steps back, then take a 15-step sprint. You know what I mean? You just got to stay consistent, stay motivated. Um, Platforms change, things break in your business. You just got to deal with it, roll with the punches. I think that's the best way to look at it.
Moving on to next expectation of starting a business is confidence comes first. Not true. Reality, you grow into it. Um, you have the expectation that successful founders are confident from day one. That is not the case. It takes time, and you will have some type of imposter syndrome as things progress and you are making a decent amount of money and talking to clients as the expertise on certain subjects. I know it's interesting for me, especially us not having a true digital marketing background through college, of sitting on the other side when we were side hustling this thing 6 months into it, and we're talking to business owners as the expert on this subject. So you do have to do a lot of research and a lot of just talking through it, whether it's the two of us or talking to family members, to have the confidence to go into a conversation as the expert on whatever you're talking about, and being able to gain trust from that person that you're talking to. I know that was a barrier, and still is to some in some cases, of what do you think about this AI trend? Or what do you think about this website software? And being able to know, like, all right, I actually have done the research on this, and then being able to talk on it. Um, so I think it's a pretty cool thing to be able to go from zero to becoming the expert, and also having the confidence to speak in public on it.
100%, especially like I think when you're hitting like networking events in the beginning too, it's how can you be confident in your business, especially when it's, a fresh side hustle and you're trying to get new clients, trying to make a name for yourself in the field. How do you not have that imposter syndrome in the beginning? And that is a mental hurdle that just takes time and repetition to overcome, in my opinion. And I think nowadays, like compared to a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, there's tools like, I mean, we were just straight up YouTubing a lot of stuff and finding cool PDFs online. Now with any subject, like something that I know John and I do is we use Notebook LM to research subjects that we, maybe are very interested about. You type it in, you have to do deep research. It spits out stuff where you can listen to custom podcasts about it. It's really cool stuff. So I think that will definitely over time you'll be able to overcome it. It's also it's not just knowledge on it too, it's actually putting that practice into real life, and that's what happens when you do get more clients. You try out new things, you you test like SEO practices or best website practices, things like that, so you are actually confident about it when you are talking about it down the line. So that is, in my opinion, huge for overcoming that imposter syndrome in the beginning. I think another like reality is, you learn and do things on the fly a ton in the beginning. Like you're building, everyone says this, it's pretty cliche, but you're building the plane as you fly it, and it's honestly not wrong when you're starting out. Yeah.
Yeah, those are actually some of my favorite projects, where you're talking with a prospective client and they go, "Hey, I've been wanting to do this project. Can you do that?" And in reality, you sit back and like, "Well, I've never done it before, don't know too much about it." But you respond back confidently, "Yes, of course we can do that." And then you have to go back and sit down and do a bunch of research. And by 2 weeks later, you come back with a finished product, and it looks great, and you have the confidence going forward that, hey, if this happens again, and a prospective client wants something done that I haven't done before, I can say yes and figure it out on the fly.
Hmm.
And then you have learned a new skill, and you can sell that skill to other people. So I think that's great. It puts a little fire under your ass to be able to be like, all right, well, I can actually figure this out and deliver on it, and people will pay me for it. So I think that goes back to just having that confidence, saying yes, then going back and figuring out how to do it.
100%. I think if you're not doing that, you're not kind of pushing yourself far enough in the business, in my opinion. Where the most we've ever learned is doing stuff on the fly like that. It's how can you, okay, now the pressure's here. It's either going to collapse you or make a diamond at the end of the day. And how do you execute on this? And that just comes down to hours and hours of research online when you're doing this and, sandboxing different things that, you're going to actually make live. So I think that's a freaking awesome point of view there. Like the most we've learned is by doing stuff on the fly like that, where it grows your skill set, it expands your capabilities of the business and makes you that much more valuable in the real world, which is amazing. Yeah, I love that.
So I'm curious, is there one skill that you underestimated needing over the course of the years? Was there something where like, wow, I didn't realize that I was going to be doing this way more than I originally expected going into business?
Yeah, I think one skill that I definitely underestimated needing in the beginning was, I definitely thought of myself as a confident like person before going into this, but I think just kind of building up that mental fortitude from, day one to now, like it is incredible how much I think I have personally grown, you as well, John, over the span of the last like 3 years. I think, in my opinion, it wasn't really a skill, it was a mentality that you had to fortify and callous over years of, repetition and failing and learning and getting knocked down and getting back up again and kind of consistently pushing forward. That's one thing that I think has helped me excel as a business owner over the last 3 years is having that mental fortitude of, understanding that you are going to get knocked down sometimes. How do you get back up and be 10 times stronger from that? Maybe you fail. How do you learn from your mistakes? Like, don't be afraid to fail and make mistakes at the end of the day. How about yourself?
I think just communication skills overall,
Hmm.
because all day, every day, we're talking to either current clients or you're on sales talking to prospective clients, leads that are coming in,
Hmm.
and just having the ability to take in a bunch of information, um, whether that's new information in the digital marketing world or information about our business, and being able to talk to, say, a a person who owns a painting business for the past 30 years that has no idea what digital marketing is, and being able to explain what that is, explain its value for their business, gain their trust, and get their business within an hour conversation. That is a skill that I knew was going to be important, but the amount of time that I'm constantly refining that and will throughout my entire life is something I think about often. Just how to improve it, how
Hmm.
to go about that sales process. How is the sales process different on a virtual call like this scenario versus a in-person coffee meeting versus a networking event?
Hmm.
Just running through those scenarios, understanding the person that you're talking to, more of those soft skills. The hard skills are great, but going out there and in person, having those soft skills to talk to different people about your business and yourself is just unmatched.
I think, yeah, that is very underestimated in the field, I think, in the beginning. How do you actually build a relationship, especially when it's a lot of the calls are virtual? How do you build that? And especially with a lot of the people we talk to, they understand they need some sort of marketing. They have no idea what any of it is. It's like speaking a foreign language to them. So how do you put our super magnified point of view into almost like layman's terms and explain it to them in a way that they can feel part of the conversation as well. What I mean? Like we're not going to get in there, and obviously we want to sound technical and sound, because we do know exactly what we're talking about, but how do you explain to them so they can also understand what you're going to be doing as well? I think that was a huge hurdle in the beginning. You can't get in there and throw a ton of crazy terms around that these people have never heard before. How do you make it relatable to them in their fields? That yeah, that's a great point you made there.
Yeah. Moving forward, I want to touch on, we touched on it a little bit today, but starting a business with family. There's a lot of people when you talk to in the business world, don't go into business with family, don't go into business with close friends. We obviously are cousins, and we've been
Hmm.
in business for the past 3 years. It's been great. I think it's a superpower to us in a lot of scenarios.
Hmm.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts on going into business with family and just from our experience the past 3 years, how's that's been.
Yeah, I think like in my personal opinion, it has been freaking amazing the past 3 years. Like it truly is our superpower. I think there's a lot of points from day zero to now where if we weren't family, the business maybe would have imploded. You know what I mean? Like there's certain very stressful times that you go through financially, deadlines with clients, things like that, where you have to be able to speak your minds and not have the other person get super offended by what you're going to say, because there's ups, there's very high highs where it's like, okay, this is awesome, I'm glad we're doing this together, and there's low lows where you want to rip the other person's head off. But how do you explain that? I think it makes me definitely work harder to, we don't want our relationship to blow up, so it makes me work 10 times harder so that we can, you know keep that intact, keep that going for, the rest of our lives at the end of the day. um it's how do we I get it makes me work so much harder, to not only deliver for the client, but i want I want our business to be successful. So, um yeah, that's my point of view on that. Wanted to kind of get your take too.
Yeah, I agree. I think one thing that is a superpower is just being able to talk bluntly and know that we're both communicating in that way for the betterment of the business. We're not
Hmm.
trying to be mean to each other or passive aggressive about certain things. We are building this business. When we're talking about business, we can just talk black and white about it. And
Hmm.
there's nothing is taken personally of, hey, you need to do this for this person. I need to do this. Hey, you did this wrong. Can you go do this?
Hmm.
It's if it was a friend or just someone that you got into business together, that could be taken in out of context, or maybe they hold a grudge against you for saying things in a certain way.
Hmm.
But the way that we're able to communicate and get past problems and move forward with those, I think us being family, cousins, it's a relationship, and I think us being able to do that helps us get past things that much quicker.
I agree. Where it's, we've had times when we're at the point where we both can't take a vacation at the same time. So when someone's on vacation, you're picking up slack for the other person, taking meetings, communicating with clients, things like that. If they have something that needs done, they're gonna let you know, and you have to just step up and finish it. In a lot of cases, I feel like people would take it the wrong way, quit barking orders at me, things like that. But no, it's for the betterment of the business, and I think we obviously respect our relationship with each other, that we want to work hard to not let that get destroyed at the end of the day. Because yeah, I mean, family is everything. So we're going to work 10 times harder to make that, you know, come to fruition. If you know what I mean. So I think it is definitely a superpower. And if you're out there and someone's like, we've definitely got some weird remarks when we were doing this in the beginning, I think, where it's don't do business with your cousin, don't do business with family, it always ends bad. That's been the complete opposite, case for us, and it's going to stay like that for the remainder of our lives. Yeah.
100%. 100%. All right, moving down. What actually matters? I think, we've talked about a variety of different expectations of starting a business and the reality of those expectations. So, just we've talked about consistency, determining success, like consistency, emotion control, long-term thinking. Sam, what do you think are the top three things that actually matter in starting a business, maintaining and growing a business?
Yeah. So, one, I think emotional control it was definitely one of the biggest things for me in the beginning, where obviously you go from the mindset of, okay, I want to own my own business. I'm going to get away from having a manager bark orders at me to, you have clients kind of directing you on what to do on a day-to-day basis and expectations they want received on projects that you're working on. And then just overall stress of business, maintaining emotional control in that sense where you have to stay grounded and level-headed. I think that is definitely a huge thing. I think long-term thinking, whether that is, okay, I can't take in $5,000 this month because we're reinvesting into some software that's going to make us grow 5 times larger down the line. I think long-term thinking is huge, how you position yourself in your business that way. And your reputation is definitely one of the biggest things for me as well, where it's, you want to be known as the company or the guy that's always going to respond on time, that's always going to deliver on the quality of work. And you don't want your reputation to be tarnished because you only have one of those. You only have one, you know what I mean? Like people only, they view you in a certain light. So you want to have a good reputation at the end of the day too. Yeah, those are my top three biggest drivers in the beginning. How about yourself?
Yeah, I think the biggest one for me is to be able to handle uncertainty. Starting a business, you have to be risk averse to take that leap, burn the boats, go for
Hmm.
it, jump into the deep end. You have to be able to sit in uncertainty, um, and just know that it is going to work. I think it could be stressful at times, but you have to be confident in yourself. You have to be able to sit there and handle that uncertainty. Are we going to land this client? Are we going to do this and what, it's going to work. You have to be able to have that confidence to sit there. I think that's a big one. Um, a lot of times starting out, you're sitting there in bed, not sure if it's going to work out or not. Um, but that's just the way it goes. And
Hmm.
some people are cut out for it, some people aren't. Um, Blessed that the both of us are, and we're able to communicate with each other, communicate with our friends and family about it. So it makes it all the better. Um, and leaning into that, I think relationships are huge. Relationships, between the two of us, with our family and with our friends, we're able to have people to talk about those things and also build those relationships with our clients. If you don't have relationships with your clients or other business owners that you're just networking with or referring business to and from each other, that's huge. Goes back to, as Sam was mentioning, that reputation. You only have one of them, so make sure it's a good one. Make sure that you're building those relationships, and just have the confidence and be consistent about it.
Exactly. You got one name. Don't tarnish it. Keep a great reputation, a great standing within, not only your industry but your clients as well. And I think, that was awesome that you said handling uncertainty. I mean, there was definitely a few months there where when we were getting ready to rock and roll that, okay, we are really pushing it with finances this month. How am I going to pay my rent and go pay for groceries and be able to afford going out on the weekends, things like that, hanging out with friends. I think handling that uncertainty and fortifying your mind at the end of the day that it is going to turn out good. You have to have self-belief. You have to almost, and this is something I know John and I do, is you mentally envision the future that you want, where you see yourself in 6 months, 1 year, 3 years, where you see the business, and really get into kind of pretty minute detail about it. Like what a vacation looks like in 3 years once the business is very successful, what the actual business looks like, how is it scaled, where do you have an office building, things like that. Like really get down to the finite details of where you see yourself in the future helps you battle that uncertainty because you wake up and you put these mental memories in your head that are going to come to fruition one day. So I think that is fantastic going.
All right, we have a little bit of a rapid fire sequence here to end. Ask questions to you first. So,
Okay.
in in the mindset of starting a business, expectations, reality, what we've talked about today, a little bit of rapid fire. First, one thing to ignore.
One thing to ignore would be, I would say, if you are one thing to ignore is honestly anyone's point of view from outside looking in on the business. So someone saying you're crazy for leaving your 9 to 5, ignore that. Block out the haters.
Love it. One skill to focus on.
One skill to focus on, in my opinion, building that mental fortitude.
One mindset shift to make.
I guess that kind of ties into each other there. You have to take the mindset shift that you're a winner in all aspects of life and business. Be really confident about yourself going into meetings, things like that.
Yeah. One mistake to expect.
Yeah, one mistake to expect. I would say there's more than likely that you're going to fumble some project with a client. And how do you bounce back from
One one thing that's worth it.
one thing that's worth it? Taking the leap, man. Take that leap of faith. Believe in yourself. Go out there. A lot of people are on that. I'm going to expand a little bit here to kind of finish this off. But like one thing that I think a lot of people are out there, they're not decisive about where they want to take their life, and some people may be stuck in the 9 to 5 silo, things like that. They might not be confident enough in themselves and their business and their ideas. Take the leap, go out there and crush it. Don't look back. Live in uncertainty, but be certain about the future that you want. So that is one thing to end on from my side. John, I'll go and kind of rapid fire these to you now. So, from the point of view of the business owner, what is one thing to ignore?
Might repeat some of your answers, but other people's opinions. I was talking to a successful business owner a few months back, and I was getting, um, I was telling him I was getting advice from this person that was in their 50s and they weren't super busy. They were in between jobs or that they weren't doing too much. And he said, well, well, if that person was successful, and if you were taking advice from that person, that guy would be at a large PE firm or doing X, Y, and Z, being super successful. So I had never thought of it that way. So it was surprising for me to hear that and to take a step back and be like, all right, well, I have to be selective about whose advice I'm actually taking to heart and
Hmm.
whose I can ignore.
100%. I love that. What's one skill to focus on?
Everything AI.
Ooh, love that. One mindset shift you need to make.
The riches are in the niches. Have to get into the weeds, and you're gonna have to stay in there for a little bit. It's gonna take more time than you think.
Hmm. All right. What's one mistake to expect?
You're gonna miss a deliverable, and a client's gonna get mad at you. It's gonna happen one time or the other.
Hmm. I love that. And then what's one thing that's worth it?
The time and pain that it takes to get to full time and have a successful business.
I absolutely love that. I think that is a fantastic wrap to episode number 2 of After Hours, the Pelagie podcast. Any closing remarks you want to end on, John, or should we stop there?
No, I think that's great. We'll be dropping weekly podcasts talking about different topics, everything business related, entrepreneurship, digital marketing, maybe tossing a little bit of fitness and just lifestyle here and there. But
Hmm.
stay tuned. We'll be back next Thursday.
Yep. Like, subscribe, follow, comment what you want to hear about. Talk to you guys later.
Perfect. Peace.